It was only like a couple hour flight. So I got there, the mission president was great. We went and stayed overnight there. And then the next morning, the mission has kind of a weird system for transfers, and it's called the transfer train. And because the mission's so big, they get two 15-passenger vans that started out of Rapid City. It might be different now, but they started in Rapid, and they went in just a big loop around the mission, and it took 2 days. And then a third day, they would go in a loop around Wyoming. And so I boarded on the transfer train bright and early. And the night before, the mission president had told us where we were going. And we headed off, and I was pretty much on the other side of the mission. So we would make stops and drop off missionaries, more would get on, and we continued that. And then I finally met up with my trainer like 10 hours later. And we still had like 3 hours to go before we got to my actual area. So I got in the car with my trainer, who had only been out for 3 months. And so I didn't realize how little she knew, but looking back on it, I realized how little she knew. And I remember we had been driving for like an hour on the freeway, and she goes, "Oh crap, I should probably like turn on the lights." And our headlights hadn't been on for an hour. I was like, "You're trying to kill me." And there was literally, like, I remember driving through North and South Dakota. I was like, this is exactly what I imagined. Like, there is nothing. They're just fields of dead sunflowers. Because, yeah, it was the wrong time of year to see a live ones. But, and then I remember we're driving back, and she started telling me about, like, our investigators and stuff. And she's like, there's something you need to know about our recent converts and, like, our investigators and a lot of the people in Williston. I was like, all right, what? And she goes, a lot of them, like, are polygamists and come from a polygamous background. I was like, what? Because I specifically remember in the MTC they said there are some things like kolob and polygamy and stuff like that that people are going to bring up, but it's not really like an important part of the church or part, and like, so just dismiss it, like don't spend time on those things. And then she tells me that it's definitely something we have to address. And so I just remember I was like, what is this place? Where am I? So I was only like 20 hours away from home, but it was still just in a totally different world. And like those people with like the polygamous background, none of them were practicing, but they'd been raised in a polygamous home, and like their parents are, a lot of them down in Mexico, but they were some of like the most receptive people we taught because they already had a testimony of the Book of Mormon and of Joseph Smith. So if you could help them have a testimony of the priesthood and of modern day revelation, they were so solid so fast. So it's kind of my first day, and I just remember being so tired when I finally got to my area because the transfer train wore me out, but it was good.